Have you ever hidden who you really are just to see how people would treat you when they think you have nothing? Before we begin, please like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear the story, and subscribe to our channel. Also, tell us in the comments where you are watching from. We love hearing from you. Let me tell you about the night I walked into that fancy restaurant pretending to be poor, and how everything that happened next changed my family forever. My name is Margaret, and I am 62 years old. For the past 20 years, I have worked as a director at a big company. Every month, I earn $35,000. I sign important papers. I make big decisions. I have meetings with powerful people from all over the world. But my son Thomas never knew any of this. To him, I was just his mom, the woman who woke up early and went to work, the woman who came home tired, the woman who cooked simple meals with whatever food we had in the kitchen. He thought I was just another worker, maybe a secretary or someone who answered phones. Nothing special, just ordinary. And I never told him the truth.
Why?
Because money was never something I needed to show off. I grew up learning that real strength comes from inside, not from fancy things. My parents taught me that quiet people can be the most powerful people. So, I kept my success a secret. I lived in the same small apartment for 15 years. I carried the same brown leather bag until it was falling apart. I bought my clothes from normal stores, not expensive shops. I cooked at home. I saved my money. I invested it wisely. And slowly, quietly, I became very wealthy. But nobody knew. Not even Thomas. Then one Tuesday afternoon, everything changed. My phone rang. It was Thomas. He is 33 years old now, married, with a good job. But when he spoke, his voice sounded strange. Nervous. Like when he was a little boy and broke something important. Mom, I need to ask you something. What is it, sweetheart? Victoria's parents are visiting from Singapore. It is their first time here. They want to meet you. We are having dinner on Saturday at a restaurant. Please come. Something about the way he said it made me uncomfortable. He did not sound happy. He sounded worried. Like he was afraid of something. Of course I will come. Do they know anything about me? There was silence. A long, heavy silence. Then Thomas spoke again, and his voice was quiet. I told them you work in an office, that you live alone, that you are simple, that you do not have much money. That word hit me like a punch. Simple. As if my whole life could fit into one small, sad word. As if I was something he needed to apologize for. As if I was embarrassing. I felt something hot and angry rise up inside me. But I kept my voice calm. Okay, Thomas. I will be there. I hung up the phone. I stood in my living room looking around. Old furniture that was comfortable but not pretty. Walls with no expensive paintings. A small television. Nothing fancy. Nothing to impress anyone. And right then I made a decision. If my son thought I was poor, if his wife's parents were coming ready to judge me, then I would give them exactly what they expected. I would dress like a woman with no money. I would act shy and nervous. I would pretend to be struggling. I wanted to see with my own eyes how they would treat someone they thought had nothing. I wanted to see their real faces. Because deep down I had a feeling. I suspected that Victoria and her family were the kind of people who measure others by how much money they have in their bank accounts. And my feelings about people are almost never wrong. The days passed slowly. I thought about that dinner every morning when I woke up and every night before I slept. Part of me felt excited. Part of me felt sad. I still hoped, just a little bit, that I was wrong. That maybe they would be kind. That maybe they would treat me with respect even if they thought I was poor. But the part of me that worked with business people for 40 years, the part that saw how cruel people can be, that part knew better. Saturday finally came. I went to my closet and pulled out the ugliest thing I owned. A light gray dress with no shape, all wrinkled and sad-looking. The kind of dress you find at a yard sale for $2. I found old shoes with worn-out heels. I took a faded cloth bag instead of my usual purse. I pulled my hair back into a messy ponytail with loose pieces falling everywhere. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked like a woman who life had beaten down. A woman nobody would notice. A woman nobody would remember. Perfect. I called a taxi and gave the driver the address. As we drove through the city, I watched the buildings get taller and fancier. We were going to the most expensive part of town. The kind of place where rich people go to eat. Where the menu does not even show prices because if you have to ask, you cannot afford it. Where one dinner costs more than some people make in a whole month.
My heart was beating fast.
I felt strange. Nervous, but also curious. Sad, but also ready. The taxi stopped in front of a beautiful restaurant with golden lights glowing in the windows. A man in white gloves opened the door for people walking in. Everyone looked rich and elegant. I paid the driver. I stepped out onto the sidewalk. I took a deep breath. Then I walked through those big glass doors. And there they were. Thomas was standing near a long table by the windows. He wore a dark suit with a crisp white shirt and shiny black shoes. He looked handsome but nervous. His eyes kept moving around like he was worried about something. Next to him stood Victoria, my daughter-in-law. She wore a cream-colored dress with gold buttons, very high heels, and her long black hair was perfectly smooth and shiny. She always looked perfect, but right now she was not looking at me. She was staring at the entrance with a tight, uncomfortable expression on her face. Then I saw them. Victoria's parents were already sitting at the table, waiting like royalty on their thrones. The mother, Catherine, wore a tight dress that sparkled emerald green under the lights. She had gold necklaces, gold bracelets, and rings on almost every finger. Her black hair was pulled up high on her head in a fancy style. She had the kind of beauty that makes you feel small and unimportant. Next to her sat Robert, her husband. He wore an expensive gray suit that probably cost more than my rent. On his wrist was a huge watch that caught the light every time he moved. His face was serious and cold. They both looked like they had stepped out of a magazine about rich people. I walked toward them slowly, taking small, careful steps, like a woman who was scared. Like a woman who did not belong in a place like this. Thomas saw me first. His eyes went wide. He looked at my wrinkled dress. He looked at my old shoes. He looked at my messy hair. I saw him swallow hard, like he had something stuck in his throat.
Mom.
You came.
His voice sounded strained.
Uncomfortable. Of course, son. Here I am. I smiled a small, shy smile. The kind of smile from someone who feels out of place. Victoria leaned in and gave me a quick kiss on the cheek. It was cold and fast, like she wanted to get it over with. Mother Margaret.
Good to see you.
But her eyes told a different story. Her eyes said she wished I had not come. Then she turned to her parents, and her voice changed. It became apologetic, almost embarrassed. Mom, Dad, this is Margaret. Thomas's mother. Catherine looked up at me. Her eyes moved slowly from my face down to my dress, to my shoes, to my cheap cloth bag. I watched her lips press together in a thin line. I saw the disappointment wash over her face like a wave. She did not speak at first. She just held out her hand. It was cold when I touched it. The handshake lasted less than a second. Limp. Lifeless. A pleasure. Her voice was flat, like she was reading words from a boring book. Robert did the same. A weak handshake. A fake smile that did not reach his eyes. Charmed, I am sure. I sat down in the chair at the end of a table. The seat farthest away from everyone else. Like I was not really part of the family. Like I was just a guest they had to tolerate. Nobody helped me push in my chair. Nobody asked if I was comfortable. Nobody asked how my week had been. They just stared. And in that moment, sitting in that beautiful restaurant surrounded by gold lights and expensive wine, I knew I had been right. These people only cared about money. And they thought I had none. Now the real test would begin. A waiter appeared beside our table. He was young, with slicked back hair and a perfect smile. He wore a black vest and carried menus that looked like small books.
Good evening.
May I start you with something to drink? Catherine spoke first, not even looking at the waiter. Her voice was loud and commanding. We will have a bottle of your finest champagne. The 2012 vintage. The waiter nodded and wrote it down. And for the lady? He gestured toward me. Before I could open my mouth, Catherine waved her hand dismissively. Just water for her.
Tap water is fine.
The way she said it. Like I was not worth the expensive drinks. Like I should be grateful for whatever I got. I saw Thomas shift uncomfortably in his chair. But he said nothing. He just looked down at his hands. Victoria smiled nervously and changed the subject. So, Mother Margaret, Thomas tells us you work in an office? Yes, I answered quietly, playing my role perfectly. I do some paperwork. Filing. Answering phones. Simple things. Catherine's eyebrows rose slightly. She exchanged a glance with Robert. A glance that said everything. A glance full of judgment. How interesting, she said, but her tone made it clear she found it anything but interesting. And you have done this for many years? 20 years, I replied, looking down at my hands like I was ashamed. 20 years as a secretary, Robert said, nodding slowly. Well, it is honest work, I suppose. The word honest hung in the air like an insult. Like he was saying it was work for people who could not do anything better. The waiter returned with the champagne in a silver bucket filled with ice. He poured it carefully into crystal glasses for Catherine, Robert, Victoria, and Thomas. Then he placed a simple glass of water in front of me. No ice. No lemon. Just plain tap water. Catherine raised her glass. To family, she said with a tight smile. Everyone clinked glasses. Except me. I just lifted my water glass slightly and took a small sip. Nobody seemed to notice. Or maybe they did, and just did not care. The waiter handed out menus. I opened mine, and my eyes went wide. Not because I was impressed, but because I was pretending to be shocked. Every dish cost more than $100. Some cost $300. $400. Catherine was watching me. I felt her eyes on my face, studying my reaction. The lobster here is exceptional, she announced. Robert and I had it last time we visited. Absolutely divine. Victoria nodded eagerly. Yes, Mom. And the steak is incredible too. Catherine turned to me, and there was something mean in her smile. Margaret, have you ever had lobster before? I shook my head slowly, playing the part of someone who had never experienced such luxury.
No.
Never. It must be very expensive. Catherine laughed. A sharp, cold laugh. Oh, darling, when you have the means, you do not worry about such things. You simply enjoy life's pleasures. Robert leaned back in his chair, swirling his champagne. That is the difference between those who have succeeded and those who have not. Success gives you freedom. Freedom to enjoy the finer things without hesitation. I felt Thomas tense beside me. I could see the shame on his face. The embarrassment. He was ashamed of his own mother. And that hurt more than anything Catherine or Robert could say. When the waiter came to take our orders, Catherine ordered first. Lobster with butter sauce. Robert ordered the most expensive steak. Victoria ordered salmon with caviar. Thomas hesitated. Then he ordered a simple chicken dish. The cheapest thing on the menu. And for you, madam? The waiter looked at me kindly. I looked at the menu, pretending to be overwhelmed. My hands trembled slightly as I held it. I am not very hungry. Maybe just a salad? Catherine scoffed. A salad? At a restaurant like this? What a waste. Victoria touched her mother's arm gently, trying to calm her down. Mom, maybe she is watching her diet. Catherine ignored her and looked directly at me. Margaret, let me be frank with you. When you come to a place like this, you should order properly. It is embarrassing to order a salad when everyone else is having real food. People will think we are cheap. I felt the words cut into me. Even though I was pretending, even though I knew the truth about myself, it still hurt. Because I realized this was how she treated people she thought were beneath her. This was her true nature. Robert nodded in agreement. Catherine is right. Order something substantial. We are paying anyway. The way he said we are paying. Like it was charity. Like I should be grateful they were allowing me to eat it all. The waiter looked uncomfortable now. He could feel the tension at our table. Perhaps the chicken? He suggested gently. It is quite popular. I nodded, my voice barely above a whisper. Okay. The chicken then. Catherine shook her head and muttered something to Robert in a language I did not understand. But I did not need to understand the words. I understood the tone, the disgust, the superiority. As we waited for our food, Catherine started talking about their life in Singapore. Their big house with 7 bedrooms. Their 3 cars. Their vacation home in Thailand. Their daughter Victoria's expensive education at a private university. Victoria went to the best schools, Catherine said proudly. We made sure she had every advantage.
The
right education. The right connections. The right breeding. That word. Breeding. Like we were talking about horses, not people. Robert nodded. We believe in investing in our children's futures. That is how you build generational wealth. How you create a legacy. He looked at Thomas. And what about you, Thomas? What do your parents do? Your father? Thomas cleared his throat. My father passed away when I was young. Catherine's face softened for just a moment.
Oh.
I am sorry to hear that. But then Robert continued. So Margaret raised you alone? On a secretary's salary? Yes, Thomas said quietly. Robert whistled low. That must have been difficult. Very difficult. No wonder you are so ambitious now. You must have seen what poverty looks like. I wanted to stand up right then. I wanted to tell them the truth. But I stayed quiet. I wanted to see how far they would go. The food arrived on huge white plates. Everything looked like art. The lobster on Catherine's plate was bright red and enormous. Robert's steak was thick and juicy. Victoria's salmon was covered in tiny black fish eggs that sparkled like jewels. My chicken looked plain and simple next to their fancy dishes. Catherine cut into her lobster and closed her eyes as she tasted it. Perfection. Absolute perfection. She looked at my plate and wrinkled her nose. How is your chicken, Margaret? It is good, I said softly. Thank you. Good. How plain. Robert, this is what I mean about appreciating quality. Some people simply do not have the palate for fine dining because they have never been exposed to it. Victoria shifted uncomfortably. Mom, maybe we should talk about something else. But Catherine was not finished. She was enjoying this. She was enjoying making me feel small. Tell me, Margaret, where do you live? I have a small apartment. Across town. How many bedrooms?
1.
Catherine gasped dramatically. 1 bedroom? At your age?
Oh, dear.
Robert shook his head. In Singapore, even the poorest families have at least 2 bedrooms. 1 bedroom is for students, not adults. I have everything I need, I said quietly, staring at my plate. Of course you do, Catherine said in a voice dripping with fake sympathy. We all make do with what we can afford. She turned to Victoria. This is why I always tell you to marry well. Security matters. A woman should never struggle the way Margaret has struggled. Thomas finally spoke up, his voice tight. Mom worked very hard to raise me. She sacrificed everything. But Catherine waved him off.
Of course she did.
That is what mothers do. But there is sacrifice, and then there is smart planning. Some people work hard and still end up with nothing to show for it. I bit my tongue so hard, I almost tasted blood. I kept my head down. I kept playing the role of the poor, broken woman who did not know any better. Robert checked his enormous watch. Shall we order dessert? Catherine nodded enthusiastically. Yes, I want to try their chocolate souffle. It is supposed to be incredible. Victoria ordered tiramisu. Robert ordered creme brulee. Thomas ordered nothing. And you, Margaret? Catherine asked with that mean little smile again. I am quite full. Thank you. Nonsense. You barely ate. Get something. Really, I am fine. Catherine leaned forward, her eyes narrowing. Margaret, let me give you some advice. When people offer you things, you should take them. Life is hard enough for people in your situation. Accept generosity when it is offered. I felt my face burn with fake shame. Inside, I was counting down the minutes until I could reveal the truth. Until I could watch their faces change. Until I could show them who they had really been talking to all night. The waiter brought their desserts. 3 beautiful, expensive, fancy desserts that they ate while talking about their next vacation to Paris. I sat there with my empty plate and my glass of tap water. Invisible. Ignored.
Judged.
And I watched everything. I remembered every word. Every look. Every cruel comment. because very soon everything was about to change, and they had no idea what was coming. If you're enjoying this story, please pause right now and hit that like button. Share this with your friends and family. And do not forget to subscribe so you never miss stories like this one. Now, let us get to the moment you have been waiting for. The waiter brought the check in a small black folder. He placed it in the center of the table. Robert reached for it casually, like he had done this 1,000 times before. He opened it, and his eyes scanned the total. $730, he announced. Not bad for a meal of this quality. Catherine nodded. Worth every penny. Robert pulled out a sleek black credit card and placed it in the folder. But just as the waiter reached for it, something happened.
My phone rang.
It was loud in the quiet restaurant. Several people at nearby tables turned to look. I fumbled with my cheap cloth bag, embarrassed, trying to silence it. But then I saw the name on the screen. James Morrison, the CEO of my company. My heart skipped. James never called me on weekends unless it was extremely important. I looked at Thomas apologetically. I am so sorry. I need to take this. It is from work. Catherine rolled her eyes. We're calling on a Saturday night? What kind of office makes secretaries work weekends? I stood up quickly and walked a few steps away from the table, pressing the phone to my ear. Hello? Margaret. James's voice was urgent. I am so sorry to bother you on your evening off. But we have a situation. The Singapore deal. The clients are threatening to pull out. They will only speak to you. They trust you. Can you help? My blood ran cold. The Singapore deal was worth $43 million. 6 months of work. Hundreds of jobs depending on it. When do they want to talk?
Right now.
They are in their office. It is Sunday morning there. I have them on hold. I took a deep breath. Send me the conference line. I will call them in 5 minutes. You are a lifesaver, Margaret.
Thank you.
I hung up. I stood there for a moment, my mind racing. Then I walked back to the table. Everyone was staring at me. I am very sorry, I said quietly. There is an emergency at work. I need to make a call. It will just take a few minutes. Catherine laughed. An emergency? What kind of emergency can a secretary have? Robert shook his head. Margaret, surely it can wait until Monday. I am afraid it cannot, I said firmly. Please excuse me. I walked toward the back of the restaurant where it was quieter. I could feel their eyes on my back. I could imagine what they were thinking. Silly woman. Dramatic. Making up excuses to feel important. I dialed the conference number James sent me. The line connected immediately. Hello, this is Margaret Chen. Ms. Chen. Thank goodness. We have been waiting. For the next 12 minutes, I spoke in Mandarin, switching seamlessly into negotiation mode. I addressed their concerns about the contract terms. I offered solutions. I made promises I knew I could keep. I used every skill I had learned over 20 years of closing deals. Finally, Mr. Wong, the lead investor, sighed with relief. Okay, Ms. Chen. You have convinced us. We will move forward. We trust you. Thank you, Mr. Wong. You will not regret this. I hung up. I stood there for a moment, composing myself. Then I called James back. It is done. They are in. Margaret, you are incredible. I mean it. This company is lucky to have you. Just doing my job, James. Listen, I know I interrupted your evening. Please, dinner is on me tonight. Send me the receipt. Wherever you are, whatever it costs, the company will cover it. I smiled. Actually, James, that would be perfect. I am at Le Bernardin with my family. Le Bernardin? Nice choice. Send me the bill. And Margaret, enjoy the rest of your night. You earned it. I walked back to the table slowly. My mind was clear now. The time had come. When I sat down, Catherine was in the middle of a story about her golf club. She stopped and looked at me with annoyance. Everything all right with your little emergency? Yes, I said calmly. Everything is fine now. Robert had already signed the check. He was putting his credit card back in his wallet. But I reached out and gently touched his arm. Robert, please. Let me take care of dinner tonight. The table went silent. Everyone stared at me. Catherine laughed. A real laugh, loud and cruel. Margaret, that is very sweet, but this dinner cost over $700. Please do not worry yourself. I insist, I said, my voice steady. I would like to pay. Robert looked uncomfortable now. Margaret, really, we have it covered. You do not need to. But I reached into my cloth bag. I pulled out my wallet. And from my wallet, I pulled out a thin metal card.
Black.
Heavy. With my name engraved on it in silver letters. Margaret Chen. It was my company credit card. The one they give only to directors and executives. The one with no spending limit. I handed it to the waiter who had been standing nearby.
Please charge it to this card.
And add a 30% tip for yourself.
You have been wonderful tonight.
The waiter took the card. His eyes widened slightly when he saw it. He nodded and walked away. Catherine was staring at my card like it was a snake.
What is that?
It is my company card, I said simply. Company card? For a secretary? I smiled.
A real smile this time.
Not shy. Not apologetic. Strong. I am not a secretary, Catherine. I never was. The color drained from her face.
What?
Thomas was leaning forward now, confusion all over his face. Mom, what are you talking about? I looked at my son, my beautiful, confused son who had been ashamed of me all night. Thomas, I never told you the truth because I did not think it mattered. But I am the director of international operations at Harrison Global. I have been for 19 years. I earn $35,000 every month. I manage 300 employees across 12 countries. That call I just took? I saved a $43 million deal with clients in Singapore. The silence at the table was deafening. Victoria's mouth was hanging open. Robert's face had gone pale. Catherine looked like she might faint, but I was not done. I turned to Catherine. You asked me earlier if I had ever had lobster. The answer is yes. Many times. At business dinners in Paris, Tokyo, London, and yes, even Singapore. I have eaten at restaurants that make this place look ordinary. Catherine tried to speak, but no words came out. I looked at Robert. You said some people work hard and have nothing to show for it. You are right. But I am not one of those people. I own my apartment. I have no debt. I have investments worth over $2 million. I drive an old car because I choose to, not because I have to. Robert's giant watch suddenly looked silly on his wrist. The waiter returned with my card and the receipt. I signed it without looking at the total. I added a $200 tip on top of the 30%. Then I stood up. I looked at Victoria. You have judged me from the moment I walked through that door. You were embarrassed to introduce me to your parents. You treated me like I was a burden. Tears were starting to form in Victoria's eyes. I turned to Thomas. And you, my son. You told them I was simple. You told them I did not have much. You were ashamed of your own mother because you thought she was poor. You never asked about my life. You never wondered how I paid for your college. You never questioned how I could afford to help you buy your first car. You just assumed I was struggling, and you were embarrassed. Thomas's face crumbled. Mom, I did not know. I never knew. That is the problem, I said softly. You never asked. I picked up my cloth bag. I straightened my wrinkled dress. Catherine, Robert, thank you for showing me exactly who you are. Now I know the kind of people my son has married into. People who measure worth by wealth. People who treat others with cruelty when they think those people are beneath them. Catherine found her voice finally. We did not mean, we thought. You thought I was poor, so you treated me like garbage. That tells me everything I need to know about your character. I looked around the table one last time. At the shocked faces. At the shame. At the tears. I hope you enjoyed your lobster and champagne. The meal you just ate was paid for by the poor, simple secretary you were mocking all night. And then I walked out. I walked through that beautiful restaurant with my head held high. Past the golden lights. Past the elegant people. Past the doorman in white gloves. I walked out into the cool night air and took a deep breath. My phone buzzed. A text from Thomas. Mom, please.
I am so sorry. Can we talk?
I looked at the message for a long moment. Then I typed back. When you are ready to know who your mother really is and not who you assumed she was, then we can talk. but not before. I put my phone away. I hailed a taxi. As I rode home through the city streets, I felt something I had not felt in years.
Free.
Free from pretending. Free from hiding. Free from letting people underestimate me. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Thomas and 5 from Victoria. There were text messages full of apologies, promises to do better, begging for forgiveness. 3 days later, Thomas showed up at my apartment. His eyes were red. He had been crying. We talked for 4 hours. Really talked. For the first time in years, maybe ever, he asked me about my life, my work, my dreams, who I really was. I told him everything. And slowly, carefully, we started to rebuild. As for Catherine and Robert, I never saw them again. Victoria told me later that her mother cried for 2 days straight from the embarrassment, that she could not stop talking about the woman in the ugly dress who turned out to be more successful than Robert himself. The lesson they learned that night was simple but powerful. Never judge someone by their appearance. Never treat people badly because you think they have nothing, because you never know who you are really talking to. And real wealth, real power, real dignity, those things do not need fancy clothes or expensive jewelry or loud voices. They exist quietly, patiently, waiting for the right moment to be revealed. And when that moment comes, it is unstoppable. If this story touched your heart or taught you something valuable, please like this video, share it with everyone you know, and subscribe to our channel for more incredible stories. Leave a comment below telling us what you thought and where you are watching from. We love hearing from you. Thank you for being here, and remember, never judge a book by its cover.